Future Dana here. We're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers, and you can help us out by sharing the channel and clicking the subscribe button. And when we reach 10,000, we're going to do a giveaway. So if you want to know what that's about, help us out. Hi, Dana here. Welcome to Sew Learn Create. I'm glad you joined us today. And if you like our video, would you please click that subscribe button and the bell notification so you'll be notified when we make new videos. Also, we have an Etsy shop where I have a lot of sewing kits for most of the tutorials that we have on the channel, and we also have a Patreon page with multiple tiers, and you can support us in that way. For today's project, we're going to be doing the second half, last in the part one, and I'll put a link to that. We did the Sharpie Tie Dye for the body of our bag, and today we'll be making the folding tote bag. So it rolls up, stick it in your purse or easily in your car, and then it becomes a tote bag. So let's get started. For today's project, the folding tote bag, you're going to need the following supplies, and I will put all the sizes in the description because there's going to be quite a few. For the body of the bag, the part that we did the tie-dye part, that is 15 inches long by 10 inches tall, and you need 2 of those. And those you will do the Sharpie tie-dye effect on, and remember, I'll put the link to that video in the description also. Then for the top of the bag, you're going to need 2 pieces that are 15 inches long by 6 inches tall, and you'll need 2 of those. Then you'll need your straps, and I did short straps on mine, but you could add length and make your straps longer to fit over your shoulder. And the handles are 4 inches tall by 16 inches long. You'll need 2 lining pieces. I lined mine with just a cream color, but you could also do a contrasting fabric. You just want to make sure that whatever you line it with doesn't show through behind your Sharpie tie-dye effect. So that's why I went with the cream. And your lining is 15 inches by 15 and a half. So you need to be careful when you're putting that together because they're only a ½ inch difference. Then you'll need 6 inches of 1/4 inch elastic. And then you'll also need a button to secure your elastic with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our Sharpie tie-dye and we're going to decide which we want to be our front. And mine look very similar, but I think I like this one better. So we're going to use this as our front, and we're going to just press that one more time just to kind of heat set that and to make sure it's nice and flat. And then we're going to fold it what I call hamburger style so that our short ends are together, and we're going to press right here at the top, and what I'm doing is finding the center of that front. Then I'm going to take my elastic and I'm going to fold it in half where it kind of makes a loop, and I'm going to clip it right here at that fold line. And then when we go to the machine, the first thing we're going to do is secure that, just to kind of baste it in place to hold it. So I'm going to set that to the side. Then I'm going to take my handles and I'm going to press them. I like to press all my fabrics before I clip it or sew it, just to make sure everything is laying flat. And I'm going to put those together, right sides together. And I'm going to clip all the way down. And I'm going to do that with both handles. Again, I'm going to press it, fold it longwise or hot dog style as I like to call it, and putting right sides together. When we go to the machine, we're going to stitch our handles down the edge where we folded it together. And then we're also going to secure our elastic And then we're also going to take and attach our tops to our front and back piece. So let's go to the machine. Now we're going to baste our elastic in place. And remember, when we do a basting stitch, we want to use the inside edge of our foot, not the outside edge, because we want that seam to be a little bit more narrow. And I'm going to remove that clip, drop my presser foot, and I kind of keep my finger there, and then I'm going to roll my needle down in that elastic. I'm going to stitch across it, then back stitch just to kind of secure it in place. And the reason I'm basting that is so that when I put my other pieces together, that elastic doesn't shift on me. So now we have that done. Then we're going to take our handles and we're going to stitch down both handles. And this time we're using the outside edge of our foot because this is the full seam allowance. And we're just going from one end to the other. And I'm going to chain piece my handles to save a little bit of time and a little bit of thread. So at the end of my first one, I'm going to go all the way off the edge. I'm not going to lift my presser foot. I'm just going to scoot my second one up in that spot and then keep going. And while we're still at the machine, the next step is we're going to take our front piece where we basted our elastic, and we're going to take the top section, putting our right sides together only at the top edge. And I'm going to clip that in place. And we're going to stitch a regular seam allowance, so using the outside edge of our foot all the way across the top edge of the front of the bag. And I've already clipped, and we're going to do the back of the bag. And when I come to that elastic, I can feel it here. I just want to make sure it's laying flat. And doing the same thing, I'm going to chain piece this one. So I've gone over my first one, line up my second one, and just keep going. Now we'll go back to the mat and get ready for the next step. Now we're going to cut these apart, just slipping that little bitty piece of thread. We're going to take our front and back and set it to the side for just a minute. Then I'm going to take a large safety pin, and to turn my handles, I'm going to put that safety pin through just one side of my handle, and then I'm going to invert it and do what I call the inchworm to turn it right side out. And this is short enough that I can probably go almost to the end, come out the other side, and then turn it right side out. And I'm going to do that with both of them. These handles are fairly wide, so it turns really easily. Now I'm going to take my handles and I'm going to lay them to where my seam is down the back in the middle. So my seam is right here. I know it's maybe kind of hard to see in the video, but my seam is here, and I want to lay it flat where that seam is down the back of my handle. And I'm going to press that. Because to reinforce these handles and give them a little more strength, we're going to stitch down both sides, and I want that seam in the back so that when you have your handle, it looks nicer. I want that edge to be kind of crisp, so when I stitch it, it will lay nice and flat for me. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other handle. And I found if you just kind of roll it, then it makes that seam lay flat, and then you can press it. Then I'm going to take my front and my back, and I've stitched the top part, and I want to fold it up to where that seam allowance is up towards the top, and I'm going to press it. And when we go to the machine, we're going to stitch just a little bit, a small top stitch. It'll make that seam stay where it needs to, and it also just reinforces that seam. Do the same thing with my front. Again, making sure that a seam allowance is towards the top, and I'm going to press it. And I take the side of my iron and just kind of push it, and that keeps everything nice and laying the way it should. So when we go to the machine, we'll stitch across these pieces. Now we're going to top stitch down our handles, and again, doing a top stitch, I'm going to use the inside edge of my foot. And when I get to the bottom, it doesn't really matter. This is going to be inside our seam allowance, so I'm just going to turn, go across the bottom, and then back up the other side. Now we're going to take and we're going to stitch this seam, and I want to just double check and make sure that that seam is towards the top of my bag, laying flat. And I'm going to just, actually I'm going to come from the other direction so it'll be easier to see. I'm going to lay it in there, and I'm going to line it up with the inside edge of that foot again, so it'll be a nice narrow seam allowance. And I'm just going to stitch all the way across just to reinforce that seam. Take my front piece and do the same thing. This one I am going to lift my presser foot so I can make sure I get it right where it needs to be. And then when I come to the elastic, I just want to make sure that that elastic is as flat as possible when I go over it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our front and back, we're going to take our handles that we've reinforced, and we're going to base them in place. So you want to take your handle and kind of make it in a U shape, and you want to put the outside edge of that handle 3 inches from the edge of your front or back. So I'm going to get my ruler here. So I like to put it 3 inches here, and then I lay my handle flat. So the outside edge of my handle is 3 inches from the outside edge of my bag. And I'm going to clip that in place. Then I'm going to make sure that I turn it and I don't get it twisted. And the easiest way to make sure is just to kind of make a U. And I'm going to come over here and do the other side. Again, 3 inches from the outside edge. And the outside edge of that handle, and clip it in place. And then I'm going to base those in place. And I'm going to start here, go all the way across the top edge, and then just stitch this one so I don't have to take it in and out of the machine. And again, when I'm basting, I'm going to remember to use the inside edge of that foot so it's a very narrow seam allowance. Making sure my handle is nice and flat, and as you can see, my seam is facing up so that when our handle is turned, the right side of the handle is showing out. So I'm just going to go across this seam. Make sure it lays flat. And then I'm just going to keep going all the way across rather than take it in and out. But you could take it out if you wanted to. Making sure everything's lined up nice and flat and easy. Take my clip off and then just go right across the top edge of that handle. And I'm going to back stitch just a little bit there. I'm going to fix my other handle on the back and I'll meet you at the mat. Now we've basted our handles in place and we're ready to add our lining. And remember, our lining is 15 inches by 15.5. So when you're putting your lining on to the top edge of your bag, the front and back, you want to make sure that you get the 15-inch across, not the 15.5, because as you can see, the 15.5 goes over the sides. That's a real easy way to tell. So these edges should line up all the way across. And I'm going to clip just here at the top, because when we take it to the machine and stitch it, we're only stitching the top edge across the front and the back of the bag. And the only thing you want to be cautious about is making sure that that handle is laying all the way flat and not flipped up. So that's the back of my bag, and I'm going to do the same thing with the front of my bag. And I've kind of made that U, inverted that handle so it lays nice and flat. And again, I want to make sure that I get the 15 across. And we'll just stitch at the machine right across these top edges. Now we're going to stitch our lining to the front and back of our bag. And remember, this is a full seam allowance, so we want to use the outside edge of our foot. And we're just going right across the top. Making sure that when we come to that handle that we can feel that it's laying the right direction. And again, I'm going to chain piece mine. So I'm going to get my next one, line it up, and just keep going. Now we'll head back to the mat and do the next step. We're going to cut our pieces apart, and then we're going to, again, as always, I like to iron my pieces. So I'm going to push this seam allowance to the top again and press all the way around, all the way down that seam that we just did. Making sure, you can see it through my lining, that that seam is facing up. Do it with both of my pieces. Now we're ready to assemble our bag. So we're going to start here at the lining. And this is actually going to be the bottom of the lining because it will be stuffed inside the bag. And this is where we're going to leave our opening to turn. So I'm going to use my red and green clip method. I'm going to put my green clip on this side. I'm going to leave about 3 or 4 inches, roughly, however big you need it to turn it. This is kind of a lightweight material, so I don't need a ton. So when we start our stitching, we're going to start at our green, go all the way around, and stop at the red, leaving this small opening. And I use a lot of clips. Some people use only a few clips. Then before I do the sides, I'm going to come down here, and I want to make sure that I line up this seam really well. So I'm going to line it up and clip it on both sides. Then I like to go to the bottom, line up my bottom edges and clip it, and then do my sides. And I forgot, because we have a seam here at the top, but we also have one here where we did the top half of our bag and our Sharpie. So we need to make sure that we line up those seams and get them nice and even on both sides. And then I'm going to add a few more clips on the lining and the body of the bag, and I'll meet you back at the machine. Now we're going to stitch, and this is our full seam allowance. So again, we want to use the outside edge of our foot, and we're going to start right here at the green. So I'm going to remove that clip, roll my needle down, and I'm going all the way around, and we're going to stop when we get back around to the red clip, leaving that opening at the top of the lining. And when I get to the corners, I'm going to leave my needle down in my fabric, lift my presser foot, rotate my project, making sure I line it up with the outside edge again, and keep going. And when I come to this seam where the two lining attaches to the bag, I just want to make sure that that hasn't shifted on me. And I'm going to take the clip off and then put my fingers there until I get close to it. And I want to make sure that that seam allowance is facing up. And the same thing when I come to this seam. I want to make sure that seam is facing up and they haven't shifted. Now I'm coming back up to my red clip, and I just wanted, when I get closer, I'm going to take the red clip off, and I like to put my finger there as a reminder of this is where I'm going to stop, leaving this opening. And I like to back stitch it just a little bit there. Now we'll go back to the mat and turn it right side out. Now we've sewn our bag together and we've left this small opening. And I like to just kind of flip my bag or my project over anytime I stitch it together, just to make sure that I caught it all the way around. Before we turn it, we want to reduce the bulk in the corners. So we're going to take and we're going to clip on the diagonal just a little bit, and you can see I stayed well away from that stitching because I don't want to cut my stitching. And I'm going to do that on all four corners. Then we're going to just stick our hand in there. I like to go all the way to the bottom, to a corner, and grab that chunk and then turn it right side out. Gonna find my corners here. Then I'm going to use my chopstick, and I'm going to gently work those corners to where they're a little bit pointier or sharper, however you want to say that, in my lining. And I'm going all the way down to the corner of my bag, and I want to do the same thing. You just want to do that gently, because if you push too hard and you rip your stitching, then you got to turn it wrong side out and fix it. Another corner here. And then I like to take my chopstick and kind of run it down as best I can. This is a big project. Just run it down that seam allowance to kind of make it lay flat. Or you can just roll it in your fingers. And I really want to do that right here where my seams are of my lining attached and my top portion of my bag. Do that on both sides here. Then we're going to take our lining, and right here at the bottom we want to close that opening. So I want to take and make sure that fabric is folded in, and I'm going to iron it, and we're going to stitch that closed on the machine. So I've got that folded in, and I know I'm going to stitch right there and close it. And I'm going to put a clip on that just so it's a little easier when I pull it back out for the next step. Before we go to the machine, I'm going to take my lining and I'm going to put it down in my bag. And what I want to do is I want to press right here at the top so that my lining is right at the edge and my lining is inside and my top of my bag is on the out. And I want to iron that so that it lays in place really nicely. And if you have it where it's starting to roll on you or shift, you can clip it before you go to the machine to keep it in place. But usually if you iron it, it will stay where it needs to. So we're going to go to the machine and we're going to top stitch that so our lining stays in place, and we're going to pull our lining out and close our opening at the bottom. So let's go to the machine. Now we're going to I've pulled my lining back out and I'm going to stitch the bottom where it's open right here. And I start just above that opening and I'm just going to stitch all the way across. And this won't be, and I'm going to back stitch there. This won't be seen because it'll be inside our bag. Then I'm going to tuck my lining back in. Then I'm going to pull the arm of my machine off, and most machines this part will remove. And what that allows me is the option to put my project underneath my arm so that when I'm stitching it will just keep going and I don't have to deal with it all on top and getting in the wrong place. And I like to start on a side seam, and again we're top stitching, so we're going to use the inside edge of our foot, and I'm just going to go all the way around. And the only thing I have to watch is that when I get to my handles, they're facing up so that they're not tucked underneath inside my bag. And when I come back to that stitching where I started, I'm going to go past it a little bit and back stitch to lock it all in place. Now we'll go back to the mat and add our button. Now I've tucked my lining back inside, and the only thing I want to do is just make sure that I kind of poke those corners down at the bottom so that they're nice and straight. Then the last thing you have to do is add your button. And anytime you add a button, remember that's one more area of design. So I've chosen a green fabric for the top, but I have a lot of pink and purple in my tie-dye. So I've chosen some pink and purple buttons. And I like to just kind of audition them. You just want it big enough to, when you roll it up, it goes around that button and holds your bag secure. So let's see. I think I kind of like the purple flower. And then one last area of design you can do is the color of thread you use to sew your button. And I think I'm going to use pink. That'll incorporate the pink and the purple onto my green. And you want your button approximately 3 inches from your elastic. So you want the middle of the button to be about right there. Let me just double check that measurement because that seems a little bit, yeah. So you want it about the top of your button. That's what I couldn't see. The top of your button, you want it about 3 inches from where your elastic is. So I'm going to sew my button on, and again I'm going to put the top of the button approximately 3 inches from the top of my elastic, and when I sew it I'm going to sew all the way through all of my layers, so it'll go all the way through my front and my lining. So I'll sew my button on and then I'll come back. Now we've added our button, and this is how you roll your bag up. So you turn it, I like to turn it where the back is up, and you fold it in each side. And I kind of tuck my handles in before I fold the second side. And then I start at the bottom and just roll it up. And then your elastic comes from that side and over your button. And our tote bag is complete. I hope you liked today's project, the folding tote bag with the Sharpie body. So, see you in the next one.